everyone, welcome to the Core Connections Podcast, a show dedicated to bringing you cutting-edge ideas, research, and solutions for all things health, fitness, and wellness related. If you're a first-time listener, hello and welcome. I'm Erica Zeal. I tackle controversial subjects, challenge the status quo, and bring on experts to discuss topics that aren't talked about enough in women's health. And today I am excited to open up conversation about diastasis recti. It is a topic that can bring up a lot of conversation because I get a lot of questions about diastasis recti and potentially a little controversy as well because there can be some mixed information out there. So I'm here to help clear that up today, at least some of it. Today's quote is one of my favorites. Fall in love with taking care of your body. Okay, let's dive right on in. Today, I'm going to be addressing and answering 6 very common questions that I get asked often about diastasis recti, or diastasis recti, as it can be called by some, which is also abdominal separation. Okay, first question is, what is diastasis recti or diastasis recti? It is the separating or spreading of the linea alba, which is the midline that runs on your abdomen. If you can visualize the six-pack muscles, it is the space between those six-pack muscles, the rectus abdominis, which spread apart and widen. Typically, it's due to the fascia in the abdominal wall is too weak or tight in the wrong places, things like that. So I'm going to dive into the more specifics. Question number 2. Who is affected by diastasis recti? So it typically comes up within the prenatal and postpartum population, which I have personally done a lot of work with. And, myself, I am a mom of 3. I did experience diastasis recti after my 3rd. And prior to having her, she's 6 now, I thought I knew about core training and diastasis. And I will tell you, since having her, I have really dove in and learned so much more. But it's not also just affecting pre- and postnatal women. It also affects women who have never had babies. It can also affect men. And I'm going to help clear that up for you as I continue to answer other questions. Because I've worked a lot within the pre- and postnatal populations, I have programs that I've created for both. For the prenatal population, I have my Prenatal Knocked Up Fitness membership, which I teach women in there how they can actually work to, yes, prevent and also help in healing diastasis recti during pregnancy. More on that in a bit. And for everyone else who's pre-pregnancy, postpartum, and beyond, that is my core rehab program. And that I created initially because of diastasis recti, but since actually launching it, it's amazing, but it is helping with so many other things, such as incontinence, pelvic floor dysfunction, back pain, and so many other things. So you may be asking, how can so many people be affected by diastasis? And it's because the linea alba between the six-pack muscles, which is made up of fascia, also known as connective tissue, everybody has it. And so it can be brought on by doing a lot of crunches, doing inappropriate core or ab exercises, by just not having the good fascial tensegrity and connection that the body, and specifically the abdomen, needs to help hold in our organs. And so if you get enough space happening, you get enough weakness in the fascia, it can lead to hernias. Many women, again, in the pre-postnatal area, we're going to see a lot of umbilical hernias because the belly button is the area that gets stretched the most, and so the area of least resistance is where people can tend to experience hernias. Men can tend to experience them a little bit lower in the abdomen. It can be because the fascia's not very pliable, would be a good word. Things are tight in the wrong places, and it's not connected as ideally and optimally as it could be. So if over the years you've done lots and lots of crunches, abdominal exercises that are super intense and they're taught in that traditional crunch style. Everybody knows what that looks like, right? It can lead to stressing the abdomen, putting stress towards the pelvic floor, which, yes, can dramatically affect women. It can also affect men because men, you need to be having your pelvic floor functioning optimally as well, because it plays such a factor in the overall deep core function of our body. And if you've been doing lots of crunches, the diastasis is not just about six-pack muscles, right, and our belly. It can also be impacting the function of our spine. It can be leading to back pain, poor posture, all of those types of things when we're constantly, crunching our abs forward and not working on lengthening our body. And because, yes, through my core rehab program, at the very end, I do incorporate back some flexion exercises because it is important, yes, to understand how to flex up, right? Because it's a movement, that is a functional movement of getting up and down from the ground. It's being able to flex forward. But that tends to be overused, especially in the fitness industry. So from a functional perspective, can crunch be a functional movement? Yes, if they are done in a way and with the form and with the deep core connected so that we are not putting pressure on the pelvic floor, we are not putting and creating too much intra-abdominal pressure so that we're not putting pressure on our spine that is not leading up to creating ideal fascial tensegrity through the core. So there's a way to do, and I like to call it flexion because that's the actual movement we're doing, that is involved more about lengthening through the spine and flexing up versus just constantly rounding and jamming into our low back and then creating all that intra-abdominal pressure, which we're not activating the fascial lines, and it can lead to the abdominal separation. It can lead to hernias. It can lead to all of those things. So this is where, leading into question number 3, why does it matter? And I wanted to talk about why does it matter because I'm a firm believer that when we start understanding why there's a reason behind why it matters, it's so much more powerful for you for sharing this with a friend or a doctor or another fitness professional, whoever it may be, because understanding the why does it matter really can help you to see the purpose and why you should care, why others should care, why other fitness professionals and doctors, why this needs to be addressed. Because it's not just about the abdominal separation itself. You heard me already mention about doing lots of crunches and how it can lead to putting unnecessary pressure on your pelvic floor, on your lower back, your lumbar spine, and not creating optimal fascial tensegrity and connection through your core, but also through your entire body. So it can lead to aches and pains and issues for the body that we don't need to be experiencing. And just because it's been taught in the fitness industry over and over and over again, everyone does a gazillion crunches and you name it, really, really intense abdominal exercises, that once your body is ready, a little bit of that could, and I say that very hesitantly, could be okay for your body. But we've got to take 10, 100, I don't know how many steps back and reevaluate our foundation. And I challenge you to be open-minded. Dive in deeper to your body and start to really understand and ask yourself these questions as you're going throughout your workouts is, do I feel pressure on my pelvic floor? Is this causing pain in my low back? Do I feel like my abs are bulging out instead of zipping up and creating space and length through my body and helping me to feel supported? For our women out there, if there's any incontinence that happens, that's a big sign that that exercise is not appropriate for you. So as we dive in more talking about abdominal separation, keep in mind that even if you don't have it, all of this that I talk about, all the fundamentals apply to everybody. Keep an open mind as we continue on this conversation because that's really what we need to have. We need to get out of this fitness-oriented, lots and lots of really intense ab work because it doesn't work for most people. And while it might work for you in your teens and your 20s and maybe even through your 30s, for women in particular, if you're in the stage of having babies or having had babies or planning to have babies, this is something to really be aware of. And it's not just because of preventing or creating diastasis recti. It's what does it mean for your body? What does it mean if you do get it? What does it mean if we can work to prevent it? It's all the same thing from a fundamental standpoint of our core function. A lot of men don't even realize they have it. This is my experience working with men is, I'll see it in men in their 50s and 60s because that's when life might kind of slow down for them and they finally decide to really work a little bit more on their body, or they're having lots of aches and pains, and they tend to find us Pilates instructors. Note that we might get a little controversy going because I know Pilates, there's a lot of flexion and teasers and things like that, and I don't teach those hardly ever because most people can't do them appropriately. So my biggest takeaway for you today is learn to listen to your body. Dive in deeper. What is it telling you? It's telling you something, and I guarantee that. So is it telling you that that exercise or that movement you're doing is positive for your body? Or is it that we're just constantly doing the same motion over and over again that someday our weakest link is going to break? And that could be causing the diastasis, creating hernias. It could be the low back hurting. So those are things we shouldn't be experiencing. No matter where you're at in life, it can be improved. And that is something extremely important that I need everyone to understand. I don't talk about diastasis recti to be like, oh, you have diastasis and it's this horrible thing. No, quite the opposite. To be aware of it brings awareness to your body, and that leads us into our next question about how do I know if I have abdominal separation? So coning of the belly is an easy one just to eyeball, right? Our belly should be smooth and flat. Even if you have a little bit of a belly, that's okay. But when you do, say, a crunch or you're doing an exercise that puts a lot of pressure on your abdomen, you will see, it may almost look like a little alien popping out of the middle of your belly, what I call coning of the belly. So the sides will be a little more, rounded or flat, and in the middle you might see this like kind of ridge popping up. So that indicates that the fascia between your rectus abdominis is weak. Does it mean you for sure have true diastasis? Maybe, maybe not. What it indicates is that there is weakness there. So this is where we don't want to get so fixated on the diastasis and how bad is it and this and that. To some degree, it doesn't matter because you've got to start wherever you're at today to work to heal it. The easiest way to test, that's a good eyeball way to do it. And I will put the actual video talking you through so you can see me do it, how to test your belly for diastasis recti. And it's easiest if you actually have someone else palpate your belly because sometimes it can be hard to try to hold your abdominal connection while you test. But regardless, I have that. I'll put it on my blog at ericazeal.com so that you can easily see it. But in general, you're going to lay on your back with your feet flat, knees bent. Like you're going to do a standard crunch. But this is we do this to test because we have to see what kind of connection you can currently make with your core. So it's not just about strength that we're testing. Actually, really what you're testing for is to see what does the fascia feel like in your abdomen. So you want to lay with your back flat, your knees bent, feet flat on the floor, and you're going to keep your pelvis fairly neutral. This is when I teach any flexion to people. We don't do where you round your spine and jam your back into the ground. Okay, I know that's taught a lot, but when we test and when we do any flexion exercises, when we jam the back into the ground and we're drawing belly to spine, that's an old school way of thinking, and I know it's still taught, and I know I'm going to get people say, but Erica, that's what my trainer says. Again, I'm going to kindly remind everybody, please, please have an open mind to change. Let's evolve with what is new and what is working and is really effective for the body, because for a long, healthy life, we have to work on the physical. And I will tell you, the physical really also affects how we feel emotionally. And when you are more aware of what's going on with your body, it gives you more confidence and more control over your body. Okay, sometimes it may not seem like that, but it really does. So when we go to test for abdominal separation, you're going to do a light flexion, but you're not jamming your back. You're just going to exhale, drop your chin lightly, and lift up with your rib cage and try to think about zipping up from your pelvis to your pelvic floor, lower belly, all the way up. And then we're going to do just a light flexion. You want to hold that. You want to engage your core, your abs, as best as you can. Then you're going to palpate down your midline, that linea alba between your rectus abdominals. Side note, do not test your belly if you are pregnant. This test does not work during pregnancy, and I do not recommend that any pregnant mom even tests for abdominal separation. The test is for those that are not pregnant, and then postpartum, I recommend ideally going closer to 10 weeks before you even check, because most women are going to have some degree of separation. Some of it will naturally come back together, especially if you were already working on the fundamentals, which I teach during pregnancy. Initially postpartum, there's a lot of healing that takes place. So when you're testing, we're testing down the midline. We're testing for two things. We want to test to see how that fascia feels as we're palpating down our midline. If you feel as though you can't really feel any feedback, that's an indication that the fascia is weak. So what's that mean? Well, it means that it's weak and it's something that you can work on. We can work to make that fascia better, stronger, more connected. Okay, that to me, that is the most important thing when it comes to testing for abdominal separation, is how deep do you feel like you can push into your abdomen. Now, if you feel like you can put a whole fist down through the middle of your abdomen, you are not alone. You are absolutely not alone, and do not think for 1 minute that that is so severe that you have to go run off and have surgery, because it's not. I have helped many women that have been able to bring that fascia so that it's stronger and bringing that gap together. So that leads us into talking about the actual space. That's the piece where everyone seems to get so hung up on how wide their separation is. And while it's something to take note of, it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is, how does the fascia feel when you palpate your belly? Is it helping to hold your organs in? So when you're testing the width of the separation, typically you're going to see more around the belly button. That goes for most people across the board, but it can shift as you start to heal. Maybe you start to notice more lower or more higher, and those are just indications of the area that is not connecting as well. And sometimes when we start thinking about, okay, how is the fascia connecting? Sometimes it just needs to be stimulated and activated. Sometimes it's just not even on. From a nervous system perspective, your body's like, yeah, I don't even have any muscle there. It's like, no, it's there. The fascia's there. We just have to wake it up, and we have to tell it to become stronger and more connected, and we can make more of that. So when we're palpating down the midline, you want to also just take note of how much space you might have. And 1 finger width space, everybody, listen to this very clearly. 1 finger width space down your abdominal wall when you check for separation is normal. Think for a minute a picture of someone with rock hard 6-pack, 8-pack abs. There's that little flat space in between that 6-pack. That's that linea alba. That is normal. And this is super common with my postpartum mamas, is that maybe the separation isn't very wide, but the depth is really deep. You're having a hard time connecting the fascia. There's 3 fascial sheaths that go through our abdominal wall, and there's more fascia that runs through our abdominal cavity, or the visceral fascia, which runs around our organs and our intestines. It's all connected. My core rehab program, which I initially created because of this huge influx of so many women finally starting to talk about diastasis. And I had a lot of other fitness professionals that were sending me their clients because they're like, Erica, I cannot get her core to fire. You know, she's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 babies. So regardless of diastasis or not, the fundamentals of the deep core strengthening, which is exactly what my step-by-step program does with core rehab, is there to help guide you to create a stronger foundation. My last 2 commonly asked questions are, can I prevent getting diastasis recti? And can I heal? And how can I heal? There's going to be some overlap here, so just bear with me as we dive into these. Can I prevent diastasis recti? The answer is most likely yes, but there's a little bit of a catch, and that is everybody's bodies are different. So especially when we are discussing pregnancy and postpartum, can it be 100% completely prevented? And the answer to that is no. But what you can do, and this is because I've seen it many, many, many times, is we can work to prevent the severity of diastasis recti. So if you do nothing, the severity of the potential abdominal separation that you could get from having babies could be really severe. The tissue could be extremely weak. Your recovery can be extremely longer and more challenging. But when you work on learning how to properly activate your deep core, how to also release, when you release your belly, relax through the changes that are happening during pregnancy, then you start to wake up the fascial connections of your body. And pregnancy is the best time, in my professional opinion, to learn about your core, to feel your core. You have a baby inside your belly. It is the absolute best time to learn about your body. And it's amazing what we're able to do. And not to get too much into pregnancy, but I'm clearly so passionate, and I love working with prenatal women, and this is why I have my prenatal membership available, because women that I haven't even worked with have come back to me and said, Erica, I wish I had found you sooner. Like, where were you 5 years ago, 10 years ago? If that's what we're capable of doing during pregnancy, then the attitude that sometimes appears as, oh, I'm just going to wait till after I'm done having babies, that's not the right answer. And I'm going to give you a little tough love here, because fascia takes time. It takes time to create the new fascial connections at a cellular level. It takes time. So no matter where you're at in life, men, doesn't matter if you're a woman who plans to never have a baby. It doesn't matter if you are planning to have babies. The sooner you start learning this deep core strengthening, the better prepared your body is going to be for the changes that life throws at you or that come your way because of life. Now, didn't guarantee that there was none at all, but what it does is your body is ready for the changes. The thing about prevention is, when we aren't talking about specifically pregnancy, with prevention, it can be prevented. And that means a lot of times backing off on the high intensity ab exercises. Stop doing 1,000 crunches a day. If that's in your goal is to do 100 crunches or 500 crunches every day, I challenge you to rethink that. There's a lot of really good core exercises out there that don't involve such drastic pressure on your pelvic floor, on your intra-abdominal wall, basically. And some of them are super simple, such as I teach a lot of with pelvic tilts. It's such an easy, can I say easy? It's not really easy. It's very effective. It seems easy, but when you actually really listen to the cueing and understand what the deep core is supposed to be doing, it's very, very effective. I use it with my athletes a lot. I use it with every single client. There's yet a client I have not used it with. As we start getting into a little bit more movement, rotational exercises are amazing because we get these spiral fascial lines. And we start to bring things together. We start to feel more awareness. So when we are thinking about diastasis, I want you to understand it's not just about diastasis. It's really about our core function. It's how our whole body is moving together. We have to get to the fundamentals. So if we're just focused on preventing diastasis and healing diastasis, we're missing the bigger picture. We have to look at the bigger picture of what is it telling you about your body. Because we can create more fascia, that's how we can work to heal it. And the other piece we have to be aware of when it comes to healing is not just bringing the abs back together. It's so much more than that, but it's about, are we releasing the other areas that are probably really restrictive that may be preventing us from healing our abdominal separation, or they're making it harder. It's all about feeling that full deep core connection from the base of our pelvis, from the pelvic floor, drawing up through the middle of our body, which activates the fascia through the core, around the spine all the way up, but also from the pubic bone upwards. So we want to think of that zipping. Those are the first steps. And as you're moving throughout your day, so this doesn't just apply to how we're exercising. Exercising is great, yes, but keep in mind that if you're working to heal diastasis recti, whether you're just doing some of the simple movements that I teach on the website, or you're following core rehab, which is, I think, something that every single person needs to experience that, because it really can change not only your mindset for how you're moving, but it can make everything else you're doing so much more effective. Okay, so it's a full body approach and not just specifically about the diastasis itself. Another piece that I need to address when we start talking about diastasis recti and our deep core function is our digestion. Now, I'm not going to go super deep into that today because I have other podcasts where I talk about digestion, going gluten-free and topics around that. But our digestion does play a role. So if we think about this for a minute, if we've got the stretched out area or the weaker area of our belly, of our abdomen, our intestines, if we're bloated a lot, they can just kind of sit in that weaker, more stretched area, which can make your belly appear to be bigger than it really is. It can lead to you feeling bloated. The food we eat is going to play a huge role. But our intestines, because they are inside of our belly, also play a big role in our core function, and especially with diastasis recti, if we're working to heal diastasis recti by feeling that wrapping around our belly and the zipping up and lengthening tall throughout our day, doing our pelvic tilts every day. But we also need to address, how is our belly feeling? What food are we eating? Are we bloated all the time? Doing some simple things such as stomach massage to get things moving can be very effective. Because again, if you're always bloated, it's pushing out where the weakest link is. You have to work that much harder to keep your intestines in. And we have to stop doing the exercises that can be contributing to diastasis, such as crunches. And so keep in mind, it takes time to create these new fascial connections. And posture is a big one that can really help to heal diastasis. It's a part of it. And keep in mind, everybody's bodies are different. So what might resonate really, really well for one person, something else resonates even better. So here's what I tell the women that go through core rehab is, listen to your body. I obviously have it laid out and I know this stuff works. But I also know that some of it works even better for some, and some of the pieces work even better for others. This is where, again, getting out of the mindset of diastasis just has to do with the six-pack of our abs. It does not. It is so much more than that. So when we are working on healing, we have to think of it more of a full body approach. You can do foam rolling and things like that. That feels okay for your body. I tend to like the little bit softer work, and always being connected through your release work is a big key piece for you. So again, no matter what you're doing, your core is always working, and that I want to leave you with that today. That is such a big effective piece, is whatever you're doing, when you're going to do your next workout, when you're walking, when you're in the car, when you're carrying a toddler around, whatever it might be, is your core working? I don't care if you feel it a lot. I don't care if you feel it just a little bit. You have to start wherever you're at today and work from there. And I challenge you to be grateful for where you're at today, even if you are dealing with severe diastasis, some pelvic floor dysfunction, back pain, neck pain. I do want to give you hope that you can work to improve all of that and hopefully eventually get rid of all of those aches and pains, because I've seen it happen. That is a huge testament that our bodies are capable of so much more than we even realize. Get out of your head, get into your body, and think about, not even think about, but feel what your body has to tell you, and listen to your body and start focusing on what your core is telling you that it needs. A big list of things that come up when we start talking about diastasis. So it's so much more than diastasis. One little piece, figure out what you feel is something that you could start incorporating today and try it. And come back again and re-listen and check out the blog. I'll post a video on how to test at ericazeal.com so you can see the videos. I know some of this is easier to see with the actual video and the movement. You can see what I'm talking about. But you have to get started and you have to be patient with your body, keeping in mind that it takes time to rebalance your body. We've got to re-strengthen the right stuff. We've got to release the stuff that's tight. and I teach you step-by-step how to do this in my core rehab program. And one thing I haven't mentioned yet, but I need to, is that even if you have had or you are planning to have surgery to heal diastasis, because maybe you've had a doctor, your OB has recommended that because maybe they think your diastasis is so severe that only surgery can heal it. One thing I want to leave you with to keep in mind is that you still haven't actually fixed the fascia. Surgery cannot stimulate the fascia to work. You have to do that yourself through the correct movement, through the correct breath work. So even if you plan to have surgery down the road for something in your abdomen, the sooner you start to wake up that fascia in your abdomen and become more connected through your core, the easier that surgery will be and the recovery will be better as well. It will be easier because there's already stimulation of the fascia. I know that you can do this, and I have the tools to help take you there. I hope this podcast was helpful for you, and I would absolutely love for you to share this with someone else that you know could benefit from this because this really does need to be shared with many others, because a lot of this is awareness that needs to be talked about more, so people are not left feeling like there's nothing that they can do or they wish they had known. That's a big one that I get. Erica, I wish I had known either I could heal this or that I could have done something in preparation for my body. If you have additional questions about anything regarding diastasis recti, please reach out to me on social media, because I know that we'll be doing more conversations geared around diastasis and we can break it down, each of these questions even more. But I wanted to dive in and give a good overview of these top 6 common questions we get about diastasis. I am so grateful for you and that you are here listening to this podcast with me today. I would love for you to share this with a friend and leave a review on iTunes. I will see you back next time. The material contained within is provided for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. You should seek medical care for any specific health issues and consult your physician before beginning a new regimen or purchasing any products.